Hey everybody, it's Manga Mike here, and in today's video we are going to be talking about foreshortening. Sorry about the little bit of a delay. I am working on my manga a lot, so I'm trying to get as many pages as I can done. So I might end up going to a bi-monthly, or not bi-monthly, but a bi-weekly schedule where I do only 2 videos per month so that I can get a lot of my manga pages done. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 4 different topics as I show you at least the start of a panel that I'm doing. So the first topic is using a reference. The second one is perspective. The third one is using cylinders and simplifying complex objects. And the fourth one is adding your details. So the first thing I wanted to say was I have difficulty, especially with hands, and I have difficulty with foreshortening because it's really hard to make a pose that seems fairly dynamic. So I do want to say though, before I got really started on this, I did attempt to do a hand just from the top of my head. And the reason why I did this, I didn't think it was going to be perfect or even really usable for my panel, but I did want to challenge myself as much as possible, and I would suggest that you do the same. You don't want to just have a reference and keep using your references all the time, because you then don't really learn in your brain how to make an object in space and then kind of move it around as you want to. And that's like the real foundation of being able to really work on something and do it quickly, right? Because the process of taking a picture for a reference and then using the reference and then correcting things, it's just going to take a while. Whereas if you can just do it off the top of your head, you're going to be able to put out stuff much faster. So that's my first point that I wanted to make. And I do want to show you, this is the reference that I ended up using while I start to develop this drawing for my panel. Okay, so that's the first thing. Take a picture of yourself and use a reference. It definitely is going to help you learn the fundamentals. Okay, so going back to the second point, which is perspective. So keep your idea of 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective in mind when you're doing things. So here, I'm just going to do it on this one. So if your hand is right here, right, and it's going towards the screen, it's coming towards the screen, you might want to kind of make your perspective lines. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's going to help guide you in how big and how small things should be. So for instance, a hand is about the same size as your face. Not the whole head, but it's about the same size as a face. So what I do is I do it usually from about the chin to right above the brow line, and that kind of gives you an idea of how large something should be or a hand should be in particular when it is foreshortened. So you're gonna have like a hand right in here like that, and then the head and the back, it's gonna be a little bit bigger, so it might just be like that. And what that does is it gives you it gives the person that's viewing your artwork, it gives them a little bit of an idea as to how much the hand is really foreshortened, or how much the head, I should say, is really foreshortened in this particular piece. So keep that in mind. So back to the third point, which is cylinders and simplification. So I'm going to show you my initial guidelines when I was doing this, right? So as you can see here, I have made things extremely simple. This hand here, I'm going to go ahead and go to red so that we can see this. This hand could even be simplified further. I kind of went into too much detail, more than I would have liked. So really, sorry, let's start with the palm first. Your palm is shaped like this, right? Some people do it like that, or you can even have like a more rectangular shape like that. So we'll stick with that one for this one. for this video. And then you have your fingers. And really notice how these fingers that I drew are extremely, extremely simple. They're sticks, right? I didn't go into vast detail when doing this because I didn't want to overdo it right in the beginning. And just some quick guidelines for hands before I move on. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So if you have a hand like this, your pinky and your index finger, they're going to go kind of inward towards the palm. And that's important in portraying a realistic looking hand. And then also your ring finger and your middle finger, it's not very good size, your ring finger and your middle finger, they're kind of going to be a little bit connected. They somewhat move together, unless obviously you're having your character like flip the bird or something like that. But they're usually kind of moving together. So just keep those small little hints in mind. So yeah, we have this hand right here, okay? And then another important thing, especially in foreshortening of the arm, is you have these cylinders, right? So you have this cylinder right here. Sorry, this is very rough, guys. And then you have another cylinder right in here. Didn't do a very good job with the circle of that cylinder, but there you go. And then you have the ball of the shoulder right here, right? And that is really what you want to do when you're doing foreshortening. And your cylinders kind of go back like this, right? And that helps you because this is all in perspective. It's all kind of going inwards like this. I probably could even, go a little bit more into perspective with it and have this cylinder come a little further out, the forearm cylinder, and then have this cylinder come in a little more for the bicep and tricep region. But that's what you want to do with this, is you want to keep these shapes very simple. If you go into too much detail too fast, then it's going to look kind of wonky. Oops, I don't really want to do that. So there you go. That is the simplification of things, right? You have this simple, huh? Whoo! You have this simple, like rectangular shape for the palm. You have just these sticks for the fingers, and then you have the cylinders for the forearm, the bicep, and then you have the circle for the shoulder. Okay. So now we're gonna go into what I did for details. So there you go. I have the details for the fingers, and as you can see, the only thing I really did was I just simply added a little bit of meat to like the finger region. So for the thumb, like I did the little fold right here, and I did use my reference. So as you can see, there's like a small fold in here. I tried to somewhat replicate that there. And then the way that the index finger is coming out, I tried to replicate. I didn't want to copy my reference like to the T. I wanted it just to kind of guide me in what I was doing. So as you can see in my reference, my arm's extremely stiff, and this isn't very dynamic. So the arm that I did here, and if you really wanted to simplify it, without doing cylinders first, I just did these lines right here, and then I added the cylinders around those lines. And that was extremely helpful for me, and I felt like this is a little more dynamic looking actually than this was. So again, you want to stray away from your reference a little bit. You want to use your brain a little bit more to draw these so that it can really truly become yours. Okay. And then I added, I went ahead, I had this like little rectangle shape, and I went ahead and carved away at it. You have to kind of become a sculptor at this point. And carve away at some of the shapes that you made. And, and then I added the body. In the initial guidelines section, I also did, as you can see, let's go back. I did like the Loomis method for the head, and I just kind of really roughly sketched in the body, and I'm going to really refine this for my actual panel. But yep, so that was kind of the simplification. And then oh, sorry, that was the details portion. And then really all you want to do is you want to just keep adding. And to be honest with you, I don't think I would add onto this layer. I would do another layer before I do my inking, and then I would redo kind of all of this in a more refined look without all these like sketchy lines. And I would go ahead and add more of the like details like I have right in here with the thumb right there and like the index finger and stuff like that. I would go back through and add those details to make it look more realistic. But don't just jump in and do details right off the bat, because you're going to end up with something that isn't quite right, and you're going to be like, well, I worked really hard on this, and you know, I spent hours on this, maybe I should just keep it. And it's not going to be something that you're really truly happy with. It's going to be something that you know, that you feel stuck with because you put so much time into. So anyways, that is my really quick video on foreshortening, and I do want to kind of quickly go back over the topics that I talked about. So you have, number one, you have a reference if you need it. So if you're not quite at the stage where you can do a hand that's foreshortened and really good accuracy, go ahead and jump into your reference after you try the hand to help work your brain a little bit. And you know, use the reference as not your like crutch, but just as like a supplement to your photo in general, right? So there you go. The perspective. So as you can see, I didn't really talk about this in detail, but as you can see here, we have the hand is like this big, right? It's that, and the head is this right here. So the head actually, in the way that I did it, appears much smaller than the hand does. But you can also see that I did use some perspective in this, right? It goes from this right here, and as you can see, my lines are tapering towards the head. I did kind of use the idea of perspective in this to help me with the proportions of the head and the hand. So just try to keep that in mind. And then we talked a little bit more about cylinders right here, and how they play a role, especially in foreshortening when you have a hand coming towards the screen. And how to really draw that and work through it. And then after that, we did the details. So we did all the stuff that's in the darker color right here. Okay, so hopefully that was really helpful for you. If you have any questions, you know, comments or anything like that, just go down below and comment. And if you want to see more content like this, you know, feel free to comment that as well. I'm, you know, really going to be open to anything anybody wants me to do and help you with. Also, quick note before I wrap things up, I will finish this drawing up of this panel, and I think I am going to just go ahead and post it. It should be a good little introduction to the character design that I have for my main character. You can actually kind of see it up in the upper right hand corner a little bit with some of the panels. But yeah, it'll be a good introduction for you, and maybe in a future video, hopefully within the next few months, I'll be able to like give you a nice little clean synopsis if I can talk of my manga and everything, and we can start really talking about that and hopefully get some support on that as well. But anyways, I do want to wrap things up. I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.